Hello, everybody. So, today we are going to be talking a little bit about languages and how they function within our bodies. We are going to do a quick little tutorial on some British Isles dialects, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how it comes out, how you're, where in your mouth they are functioning. And I will be honest with all of you right up front, I am nowhere near a professional. So, if there's anything that you would like to investigate further with a particular language, I would suggest taking a class, going online. Look, there's a few different, there's Duolingo and Babbel and a few other places that can help you learn a language. So, if you would like to do that to get a better clarification, I highly encourage it. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the British Isles. So I'm going to do the more fancy British and then a little bit more of the not quite so fancy British. And then we'll see how we're doing there. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is when you are trying to figure out how to speak in a different language or with this particular accent. Listen to people who speak that, for starters. Just right out of the gate, just listen to how they speak. If you want to speak with a little bit more of a posh accent and have a little bit more of the higher society lady or gentleman, you're going to talk in the top part of your throat, at the top of your mouth, and it's going to carry up and over, and you're going to soften your R's, you're going to soften your S's, you're going to soften your T's. If it's at the beginning of a word, you're going to say it a little bit more tight, but if it's at the end of a word, it's going to be a little bit softer. So, for example, the word softer. The S is a little bit hard, the T is a little bit hard, the R is a little soft. However, I, as an American and a Western American, am not going to be perfect at that. And we have plenty of examples in pop culture of where you can look at for a British accent. So along with speaking in a more posh accent, if you want to practice it, you can use words like darling, my dear. Go through anything from Jane Austen, pretty much. There are like any Jane Austen movies, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, you're going to get a really good feel for it. There's plenty of British actresses or actors who can follow. But if you want to say something big that is a little harder, you can try to bring it up into the accent and then do a silly word like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's a little harder to say, it takes a lot of vowels, and it can get difficult. One of my favorite ways to practice speaking with a certain dialect is to sing songs. So supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is a really good one, but singing along to Mary Poppins can be difficult, especially if you're trying to practice an accent. If you have seen My Fair Lady, trying to mimic Eliza Doolittle is very fun. So you get that, you drop the H's, you drop a lot of the R's, you drop a lot of your consonants, and so you get in Artford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly ever happen. And you get that very Cockney feel to you. And then you can sing along with her and do the all I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air with one enormous chair. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? And that's very forward in your mouth. It's not like you get that really guttural feel in your throat, and it's very forward in your mouth. That airy feel of being high and in the top of your mouth it gets lost, because if you have that higher, that more sophisticated sound, it's going to be higher in your throat and higher in your mouth, and it's going to carry over and roll down. But if you're doing the more of a Cockney or more of a lower class, it's going to sit in your throat and it's going to be very forward in your mouth. So it just depends on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. So that is more of the British part of the British Isles. But if you want to jump over to an Irish, I'm silly and I know I'm silly, but it's easier for me to slip into it if I do the classic cliche, top of the morning to you, dear. How are ya? And it sounds silly to a lot of people, but it's actually a really good way to jump your brain into it. Just top of the morning to ya. And then you want to carry on a conversation when you're doing it, but it can be harder, but it's also kind of that light and airy, and it keeps you up here, and you're up in the top of your mouth, and it's kind of rolling across your tongue, and you're not really fighting it too much. It just sort of rolls. It's hard to do this on one person. It's easier when you have somebody to talk to. For anybody who's wondering, my lovely Tyson, who's sitting over here to the side of me, he's doing all of the recording, and he's trying to figure out how he can help me here, but I'm not very good at the monologue, so if he'll banty with me a little bit, then it'll be easier for you to hear how to say certain words.
And I won't be doing an Irish accent. I am terrible with it. It's something I'm going to have to learn from the video. So
that's all right, dear. Do you have any questions for me? Because then I can answer it, and I can kind of describe how things feel and how it sounds. And
it sounds like with the Irish accent, you're going up in tone.
Just a little bit. So for me, my normal speaking voice is a little bit more on the alto. But when I do my Irish, it comes a little bit higher in the alto, a little bit of a low soprano. And so it just makes it a little bit easier for me to express myself if I have that slight difference in inflection.
Are you doing anything with your nose while this is happening? Like, are you trying not to breathe through or speak through?
So I'm actually a very strange, my nasal cavity is a little different. I have the ability to completely block my nose. So, but if I do that I sound a little bit more like this, and it sounds weird. So,
so it's more airy.
I'm still allowing the air to flow through my nose, but just like when you're speaking with anything else, you have to pause your breathing in order to get things to come out right.
It doesn't really sound like you're dropping any consonants.
It's not particularly, no. Diction is very important when you're speaking. It's just a matter of changing how you say certain words. It gets very narrow in my mouth when I speak like this. Whereas with a British accent, it's very open and very just kind of up, and it rolls over. With the Irish, it kind of narrows and comes down through the middle of my mouth.
Are there different types of Irish, or
there probably are, but this is about the only one that I know how to do.
It's kind of the more popular one too. It's the one that you hear most.
It's the one that I've learned. I'm what's called a chameleon and a parrot, so I'm able to practice what I hear and then bounce it back out. It's hooray for ADHD.
So who do you mimic when you're doing an Irish accent? What actor or actress are you thinking of?
So, to be quite honest, the only one that I can actually think of off the top of my head is Colin Farrell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I know that's probably weird for some people, but it doesn't really matter if you're listening to a man speak or to a woman speak. If you can try to mimic what they're doing, so that what's coming out of your mouth matches at least similar to what's coming out of theirs, then it's an easy way for you to practice and parrot. But when you're trying to do a little bit of a Scottish accent, you're going to drop a little bit, but I'm trying.
It sounds almost like the Irish is fighting the Scottish.
Well, up in my head, the Irish and the Cockney are trying to take over and not allow me to actually have my Scottish, and it's been a little while since I practiced it, so it's not coming out quite right.
It sounds good though. I I mean, to an American ear, to me, that sounds good.
It's not coming out quite the way that I like to have it, though, so it's a little bit weird to my ears.
So what did you do, and what are you doing to speak like that?
So a lot of it for me is mental. If I can't get my mental status in the right place, then I'll drop into something else. But one of the things that's important for learning how to speak any language is learning how to roll your R's. Because if you can't roll an R, then you're not going to say a lot of words right. But also, it's kind of that mix between being at the top of the back of your throat, but also at like the narrowing of the mouth and just the way that you say it and the inflection that you give it. It changes where it sits in your mouth versus how you pronounce your vowels versus how you say your consonants, and having the diction is a little different. But the inflection is very important for how you say the words.
So where you're rising and where you're dropping.
Yes, the where you put the inflection really changes the way the word sounds. So for an upper class British, you could say darling, but for Scottish, it's going to be more like a hello, darling. And then for an Irish, it's going to be darling, how are ya? And it really just changes how it comes out of your mouth versus how you say it. Really just based on where you put the inflection in the word. And we see that all the time in American dialects between, as you stated, the Western, like Southwestern, Midwest, and like East, Southeast. We could all say the exact same phrase, but it's going to come out very different just based on where we're from.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because you think about it too, all of these accents are based off of a different language. Like we all know it as English.
Yeah.
But for the Irish, it was Gaelic. Mm-hmm. For the Scottish,
it's for Scottish, it's Gaelic mixed with Pictish mixed with a little bit of Nordic, because the northern, where Scotland sits on the British Isles, was very bombarded. So, I mean, the Picts were the original people there, but then you have the French who came and the Nordics who came, and I mean, eventually everybody from the south who came up, and
right,
the Saxons, and I mean, heck, when Rome took over the British Isles, and we're like, we want to get rid of all of you. So I mean, it just the language there has changed so many times throughout the centuries that it's really hard to. It really was a melting pot for a while there. So.
Okay, so let's do some common practice phrases for people who want to try. Let's start with the High British. Let's do 3 phrases that you find are really common.
Oh, right. So for me, having common to me or common to in general? Common
because
to me.
The important thing to remember in this video is, for the viewers, the important thing to remember in this video is this is Kathleen Danes as she learned it. This is not how it's going to work for everyone.
And I'm not perfect by any means. None of this is perfect. So please forgive me.
Yeah, we are all laymen. Like I do the German, I do the Swedish, and those are my 2 accents that I love to do.
Yes.
And eventually we'll do a video on those. But I'm not perfect at it.
None of us are perfect.
Different.
We're all learning.
We don't expect you to be perfect, but if you want to learn to do the accent, for Kathleen, this is her way to encourage you to be successful.
So for me, practicing the languages is very fun because I play D&D. And so I pick a language or an accent that I want to practice, and that's the language that I give to my character. So, because then it forces me to practice it. So for the more posh British, my character very often would say, "Hello, darling." And that's very simple and it's very plain and it's easy. It's just, "Hello, darling."
It gets you into it.
Yes, it pushes me into it very quick and easy. Just that, "Hello, darling." And then one of the other ones that we liked to say quite a bit, which a lot of our friends laughed at quite a lot, was, "Yes, but did you die?" Because our character was not always the smartest. So it was, "Yes, but did you die?"
And notice she goes up with that. Like
Yes.
she's going up until the very last word.
Yes.
Where someone normal, and I say that very loosely because it depends on where you're from, is, "Yes, but did you die?" Like, it comes in so many different ways, but when you're thinking of an accent and you're thinking you want people to fall in love with what you're doing, then you kind of follow these very basic rules, and then you can twist them to suit your own needs. So
yes.
So
yes, it's "Hello, darling," and "Yes, but did you die?" Because she was quite snooty about it. And then one of the other things that that particular character also doing this, if you have a character in your mind that you want to practice, it makes it a lot easier, because then you can get your mind into that status of, "Oh, I'm being this particular character." And so, like, for this one, for example, very, very open in the nose, very up in the top of her mouth. But yes, so "Hello, darling," but "Yes, but did you die?" And then, "Oh, stop it, you're fine." So very, very, she was very patronizing, if you couldn't tell. So those are three very simple ones that helped me get into that particular character. For Irish, it really is that lame "Top of the morning to you, dear." And "How are you today? Are you having a good time?" Or like, how's your mum? Is your grandma doing fine?" Like, and just having that very motherly communication of just, "How's life treating you today?"
I have one that, when I attempt an Irish accent, because I am atrocious at it, but the one phrase that I always use is there any particular shade of green you're looking for?"
Is there any particular shade of green you're looking for? Yes.
I like that one.
It's a good one.
It's a stupid one. Like, no one says that. But there was a joke I read, and it always, "Is there any particular shade of green you're looking for?"
Yeah.
That's one I like.
That's one of those things where it's almost like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Yes.
There's not really a point to it, but if you practice it, you're going to hit like it's got all 26 letters in it. So you're going to hit everything.
All right, now Scottish.
So with the Scottish, with that one, it's a little bit harder for me to have particular phrases, because with that one, it's like, I've never really practiced particular phrases. It was very much just a conversational, that I used to have a Scottish character that I portrayed regularly, and I'm ashamed to say I actually had, way back when, actually
way back
when, there was a lady who came to one of the events, and she stood there and listened to me for a few minutes, and she just looked at me and she's like, "You're not really Scottish, are you?" And I was like, "Well, no, this is a character that I'm portraying." And she's like, "You shouldn't even bother." And it it felt brutal. Like, it really shook my confidence in doing accents, period. And it really turned me off to trying for a couple of years. So if somebody ever like gives you crap about trying an accent, try to brush it off. Like, they're dealing with their own crap. Try not to let it overwhelm you. Sometimes people are just mean, just for the sake of being mean. But don't let it derail you trying.
You're doing the accent because you love the people, you love the culture, you love the area. If you didn't like it, you wouldn't be even try.
Exactly. So if somebody gets on you about trying something and because you're not perfect, they're telling you you're terrible, let it roll off your back and keep doing it, because practice makes perfect. And my Scottish has gone downhill a lot because I've been afraid to practice it. So.
But Brave's a great one to go to.
Yes, Brave is a good one. Brave, Outlander, if you're into that. And then I would say also, there's just look up. There's so many. There's so many.
And Sean Connery. You can always do Sean Connery.
I suppose if you want to do a Sean Connery. He's not my favorite. I mean,
This is a different accent.
I grew up with Sean Connery as the prototype Scottish accent, and I was like, no. I'm like, give me Gerard Butler. Like,
ooh, that's
he's got an amazing accent. So.
And
they're
really
good. Honestly, David Tennant is fantastic. I mean, he's got a great brogue, and so listening to him when he's just going full bore Scottish, it's like, okay.
Yeah, Billy Connolly, of course.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor. All those guys are just fantastic.
I would say, probably very confidently, that there are more examples of Scottish accents if you really want to get.
Yeah.
And for regular phrases, like, I mean...
so many.
There can only be one Highlander. That's a good one. That was a terrible. But
there can only be one. That's a terrible example. Why would you put that in my brain?
I couldn't help it.
You put that in my brain. Now it's going to be stuck for days. Oh no.
Okay. Well, that's a whole bunch of tips and tricks, and hopefully it's helpful to you, because I know how hard it is to find videos.
Also, thank you, Tyson, for jumping in and talking with me and banting with me, and hopefully it wasn't too crazy for you guys, and have fun with it.
Yeah, make sure you post comments or questions. We can always do a follow-up video with some more details. We're still learning and growing.
Yes.
So as we go on.
And when you guys go and practice things, comment with your favorite phrase or what accent you guys would like us to do. If you want us to do some French, if you want us to do some Italian, if you want us to do some Spanish, let us know what you guys are interested in. We're happy to find people who can come in and give you guys tutorials.
Yep, so we hope that your history is as fun as ours, and we plan on seeing you next time.
Huzzah!